Apparently, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has a few odd habits. Okay. Let's get into the details, okay? According to multiple sources speaking to the Daily Beast, Ron DeSantis has some issues with his social skills. Normally, that wouldn't be any sort of an issue. Why would this matter? Well, that's because Ron DeSantis could be running a presidential campaign against Donald Trump, who actually is someone who does not have issues with social skills. So it goes into the politics, which is pretty interesting. Now, some of these former staffers to Ron DeSantis, as well as other Republicans who have dealt with him, people at, for example, political events, well, they say that the Florida governor struggles with some basic social skills. And that his allies are working in early primary states in order to structure his events to prevent any sort of unexpected interactions between the public and a candidate who is off-putting at best and rude at worst. Putting a little distance between you and the rabble, the riffraff. Some quotes here. I love it. Now, one veteran event host in an early primary state said this: "The DeSantis campaign is easily the least responsive campaign I have ever dealt with. We invite, ping, 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 and we don't hear anything." So, running his campaign incredibly tightly and saying, look, we have to have a lot of control over these events. And look, it's not like there's not precedent for this. When it comes to DeSantis, I remember showing you a video, I believe it was last week, of Trump supporters led by Laura Loomer trying to protest outside of a DeSantis book signing. And DeSantis says, get those people out of here. If you're wearing a Trump shirt, get out. You are not welcome on the premises. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. Now, 3 former DeSantis staffers also described him personally as quiet, no matter the occasion. Someone who keeps to himself, a little bit of a loner, perhaps. Now, they said that this has made the shift to the national scene harder than anticipated, particularly in the governor's hesitation when it comes to delegation and his insistence on maintaining a very small orbit. So, I'm getting 2 things already. Number one, he's not into political events, but he wouldn't be the only one. Let's be fair. That said, is that going to be a problem if he's going to run against Donald Trump? Yes, of course. It's going to be very difficult for him to, especially on the debate stage, if they ever even make it that far. Now, let's see. There's more. A GOP strategist who has no horse in the 2024 race even compared DeSantis' early approach to that of his potential general election opponent, arguing that the governor has embraced, quote, a Tallahassee basement strategy. Ooh. No, that's not
sexual anarchy.
No, it's apparently a shot at DeSantis using President Joe Biden, saying that it mirrored Biden's strategy in 2020, where he had hidden from the press and real voters. Republicans saying this about DeSantis. Can you believe it? He's doing just like Joe Biden. He's hiding. Where are you, DeSantis? Hiding in the basement? Not a good sign. By the way, his allies that speak up to defend him, I don't think they're doing him any favors. Here's one quote from former Representative Francis Rooney, who is an influential Republican donor. He said this: Ron is a little reserved and dry compared to George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Yes, he's very dry.
Wet ass P word.
No, the opposite of that. Dry. Like a desert. He is what he is, though. So what he needs to do is organize his campaign to minimize that characteristic. So now he also mentioned, he mentioned George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. It would be, I guess, really, really bad if someone were to make, a comparison between DeSantis and another Florida politician.
Please clap.
I'll leave it to you to guess which one. But now several former staffers of the governor told the Daily Beast almost everything DeSantis does is scripted, which, coupled with an aversion to small talk, general pleasantries, and any unplanned interaction with the public, make him difficult to manage ahead of events. One former DeSantis staffer told the Daily Beast, quote, "It's very prescribed," while adding that there are limited off-the-cuff interactions while on the trail with DeSantis. It's apparently managed so tightly that his campaign had requested bike racks in order to wall off DeSantis from the public during a visit in Iowa. This is according to a New Hampshire ally. One New Hampshire GOP legislator says this: "If they want 50 bike racks, we'll give them 50 bike racks." Now, Ron, why would you want to wall yourself off from the people? Aren't you serving the people? Don't you love the people? These are your voters, man, or potential voters. Who you're trying to woo? What do you want? Why are you hiding? You want to talk to him? No, it's because he's an elite. Ron DeSantis is an elite establishment Republican. He has no desire to mingle with the riffraff. Elitist. Now, let me tell you, do open elitists, you think they're going to do very well in a Republican primary? If you're an elitist? No, I don't think so. I mean, in fact, this may be probably one of the most damning quotes here from an event primary host. He basically compared Ron DeSantis' campaign approach to that of Hillary Clinton in her 2016 run. Kiss of death right there. Oh, yeah, he's acting, his campaign's like Hillary Clinton's. What? I mean, again, look at it from a Republican perspective. You compare your campaign to Hillary Clinton's campaign? That's not very high praise. Oof. Now, look, there's another thing, too, and maybe they're afraid that he is so socially awkward that he's going to make some gaffes. Now, look, does Joe Biden make gaffes? Literally all the time. Okay. Some of the weird ones, like talk about Corn Pop, and Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran around with a bunch of bad boys. Okay, and what a weirdo story. Please tell us about what you're going to do for healthcare, because that's what's really important. But okay, trying to protect him from gaffes. So what kind of gaffes are we talking about? One of them that they're trying to protect people from seeing is apparently DeSantis's eating habits. Weird. Okay, so now, one former DeSantis staffer told the Daily Beast, quote, "He would sit in meetings and eat in front of people." Well, okay, look, if that's just it, okay, you're going to eat in front of people. That's a little rude, right? Especially if you're not going to share. But no, it actually gets worse. In fact, the quote ends with saying, "He was always acting like a starving animal who has never eaten before." What? What? Adding, he would just get shit everywhere. What? Look, I understand that that's not the most important issue, right? Well, obviously. The guy's like a apparently super messy eater. Okay. And look, one of the things that were mentioned is how he was eating pudding in a very off-putting way. During a private plane trip from Tallahassee to Washington, D.C. in March of 2019, DeSantis was eating a chocolate pudding dessert by eating it with 3 of his fingers. Look, that's awkward. It's super awkward, right? And actually, it's pretty funny. Look, stuff like that shouldn't matter. Yeah, it's weird. It's fun. But whatever. It shouldn't matter. But actually, in politics, it does. Because again, we are talking about like optics. There's always politics to to talk about, and there's always the optics to consider. And so far, these optics, especially when it comes to a Republican electorate, I mean, seem a little weird. Again, if you compare it to Donald Trump, who is very, I would say, entertaining and personable, even though, again, I think he's a horrible person and no redeeming qualities, but nonetheless, he doesn't put off that vibe. But I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as like weird stuff like this sinking presidential campaigns, we've seen it before. Everybody knows the Dean scream, literally tanking this guy's campaign. And speaking of tanks, I like tanks in politics. What do you think of, other than the military-industrial complex? What do you think of Dukakis? Dukakis and his ridiculous photo op. That's what I think of. Look, this is all. I mean, that's all standard Washington politician stuff. And DeSantis is nothing more than a standard Washington politician who has, by the way, really like focused and laser focused on the culture wars in Florida. Now, if you're a standard politician, though, if you're perceived as one, that turns people off. Now, that could help Donald Trump, of course, because, again, the Republican establishment, I think, has never really figured out why Republican voters love Donald Trump. They all despise him, of course. Donald Trump, I mean, he sounds like an idiot, and they're like, oh, this guy's a moron. Like, he's not only a moron, he's also dangerous. Like, what the hell? Well, that's because Donald Trump does not talk or act like a standard and rehearsed and coached politician. Now, that, of course, both helps him, obviously, with the voters. It also hurts him because he gaffes a lot. And look, there's some Republican voters who are like, hey, you might want to not talk about that stuff, or whatever, right? But look, overall, the guy's entertaining, engaging, and of course, very easy to understand. MAGA crowds, they love him. They love him. But that said, DeSantis has a record in Florida that to me personally is absolutely horrifying. But the right loves it. They think it's fantastic. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Weirdo, like, habits aside, it is interesting to look the politics and the optics of him, of DeSantis, basically trying to create a wall between him and the voters, and how that's going to play out, especially since Donald Trump was much more engaging when it comes to the right-wing electorate. So I don't know, man. Interesting. Personally, I still have Trump beating DeSantis if DeSantis even jumps into the race. But as we all know, of course, things can easily change.